Hi everyone, just a quick update on the Candidates Tournament today. After a dramatic day of playoffs on Monday, we have reached an interesting situation where two of the tournament's top players, Aronian and Topalov, have been defeated and sent home. The tiebreak saw Radjabov score a great win against Kramnik after 8 consecutive draws in the standard time controls and rapid. I'm not going to do extensive analysis on the rapid or blitz games, but we can scroll through the moves quickly. It was Ruy Lopez. It's fairly standard, equal kind of position out of the opening. Nice knight at f4 for black there. And now white's getting good pressure for the pawn. And at this stage, Radjabov played the brilliant knight h6, which is a great shot because after g takes h6 comes queen e5 with a big advantage to white. After knight d5 comes this continuation. And check, and after knight g7, knight takes g7, queen f8 check, and here Kramnik resigned, seeing that he was going to get mated after queen takes, the rook takes, and its mate. And the tie-break setup is 4 rapids first of all, which then go to blitz games in the event of a draw in the rapid game score. The blitz game setup is a mini 2-game match basis, meaning that if you win the first one, your opponent must win the next or he loses, and in the event of a 1-1 tie with 2 wins or 2 draws, another game match is played, another 2-game blitz match, and if 5 such matches occur, all with drawn outcomes, then a single Armageddon game decides who progresses in the tournament. Radjabov's win against Kramnik here came in the first blitz game, so he was set for easy progression, needing only a draw with the black pieces. And that game went as follows. Kramnik has white here. He elected for bishop b2, nice sharp variation. And we're seeing, well, not really a normal position. This bishop b2 idea is rarely seen in knight f3 and d5 openings. So here we're reaching, a lot of simplification, and Radjabov with the black pieces is playing for a draw, so that suits him fine. And now we're reaching opposite bishops, and if the rooks come off, it's a clear draw for black easily. And at about this stage, with perhaps 20 seconds remaining, the clock broke and play had to be adjourned. The arbiters came in and were looking at the clock, and both players were shaking their heads. They didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of commotion in the playing room anyway, and the position has been almost completely drawn for many moves, but Kramnik with the white pieces was quite rightly playing it out in the hope that Radjabov, whose hands were visibly shaking, would go wrong. Not long after, play resumed, after about 5 or 10 minutes, and by a miracle Kramnik managed to come back and win from this position. It was quite a long game. Kramnik is willing to play right out until the 50 move rule if he has to try and get a mistake from Radjabov in order to get the win. And he is a pawn up here, but the position is completely locked, and it's virtually impossible for white to make any progress. And as you saw there, the pawn has just been one back. And it's it's just black is playing completely for a draw. But when the clocks went wrong, when they broke, he only had about 12 seconds left, and Kramnik maybe had about 20. So they're playing at lightning speed here. And this last move, rook d6, is the critical mistake, because after this continuation, rook d6, now white is winning. Rook b5, and it's now losing completely for black, even after the rooks come off. a6 and king e2, and here Radjabov resigned, and Kramnik thus ensured that the next pair of blitz games would be played and that the psychological advantage was his. And finally, in the next game, we saw Radjabov play King's Indian defense, which we've been waiting for against, between these two players right from the start of their match. Radjabov had black here, because he did have black in the last game as well, but at the beginning of every blitz match, you know, you get white 2 times in a row. You know what I mean? Like if you get white the first game, the first match in the first game, you get it in the second game, in the second blitz match. And here Radjabov played e takes d4. And you know, choosing the King's Indian offense was a very gutsy choice from Radjabov, and the perfect time to unleash his great weapon. And he got an advantage too as the game progressed. At this stage already, he's got a slight edge, which, according to Fritz anyway, he loses now as the game progresses. Although, you know, Fritz is still giving a slight edge to black, but I'd say that's mainly because of the bishop pair, which is an advantage. But now that that's gone, it's the advantage for black here really is in white's isolated d pawn, but this is contrasted with the backwards c pawn. So now it's fairly equal, really, as the game progresses, especially by about this stage. And you know, it's just a grinding kind of, you know, position. And here this endgame is almost certainly a technical draw, but remarkably, in the high pressure situation, Radjabov is about to go wrong. As play continued here. Kramnik is absolutely brilliant endgame player, and he proved that here. With rook h7, Radjabov is planning to advance his h-pawn, but this is flawed because after f6 suddenly white is much better. His king is very active compared to black's king, especially after h4, because now king g6 wins the game for white, although rook e8 check was a forced mating line. So after gaining the advantage in the blitz games, Radjabov was now forced to find a win in order to stay in the tournament. In this game, and he had white, and he opened with e4. We saw another Ruy Lopez. Just very solid d3 variations. But that said, it's harder for white to claim an advantage in these lines as it is, you know, compared to the main line. Ruy Lopez's crude threat in h7 is reasonably easy to deal with. Light squared bishops come off, and we're going to a lot of simplification, which of course Kramnik is happy with, because all he needs now is a draw to progress in the game. And you know, we're seeing that simplification here. Just a heavy piece endgame. It's difficult, especially now, because by this stage white is losing, and you know, Radjabov played on as one might expect. There's some play left in the position with this passed d pawn, but it's not enough. Certainly not enough to play for a win. And he's about to go wrong, quite crucially. At this stage, after queen e3 check, he played king h1, and king f1, although it's looser, had to be played in order to avoid giving black drawing chances. Now after rook takes d6, rook takes d6 is a tactical shot here to win back the rook. And after queen takes g5 and queen h4, now queen d2 check, and black gets a perpetual check on the white king, which Kramnik was more than happy with, as it meant it saved the day for him, and you know, he advanced to the next round, whilst Radjabov, who must have been heartbroken after having a massive advantage after the first blitz win, was eliminated. And it was an incredibly lucky save by Kramnik, who punched the air after this game and remained in the tournament by the skin of his teeth. The other boards saw Aronian and Grischuk playing for their place in the semi-finals, which was just as eventful. This playoff didn't reach the blitz stage. Out of the first 3 rapid games, Grischuk and Aronian had 1 win each, both with the black pieces, which made this, the 4th game, critical, with a win for either side ensuring qualification to the semi-finals. Grischuk had white and open with d4, leading to a queen's gambit declined. After d5, knight f3, c4 and e6, and the game continued as follows. And c5, which is an interesting choice that's featured a lot in this year's candidates matches, albeit mostly in the playoffs. Play continues as follows: black expanding on the queen's side, and left with a better bishop after the trade of light square bishops. And, at this point, black has an edge, but Aronian, who was looking quite sickly and coughing in the video feed, wasn't able to maintain it effectively. Talking b5, and, a few trades, and this wild move g5, creating a lot of complications. I just don't think the blitz and the rapid games are as worthy of detailed analysis as the proper long tournament games. So after queen takes c5, white has knight c takes d5, and now white is winning. And at this stage, Aronian gave up his queen for rook and minor piece with knight takes d5. So rook takes d5, rook takes c5. It's an interesting and dynamic choice from Aronian, but unfortunately, white is better from here on. And after some pressing play, Grischuk managed to crash through. So knight takes d5. And the opening of the queen side we saw in the early part of the game now favors white, although the d-file, at least temporarily there, belonged to black. So we see lots of pressing play. After queen c2, f5, now queen c6 is very strong. Knight f8 to defend e6, but this is the critical mistake, because now bishop d6 is clearly winning, although the black position was practically impossible to hold in any case. Play continued, rook 3b6, queen e8 check, rook f7, now bishop takes f8, bishop b5 check. It's a hopeless attempt from Aronian, it's completely losing. After g3 he played f4, and this is the final mistake, because now comes rook d7, which is going to force mate. This rook can't move because it's pinned. After f takes g3, Grischuk simply played king g2, and Aronian resigned. So it was an amazing result for Grischuk, who was certainly the underdog going into the match against Aronian, but he managed to hold out in the long games and won the rapid match quite convincingly. Many kibitzers watching the game during the day of playoffs were bemoaning the tournament structure with the rapid and blitz playoffs, and it's a matter of debate whether it's fair that such important matches can be decided with blitz games and rapid games. Comments and ideas are welcome below. In any event, we have now whittled the field down to 4, with Kramnik playing Grischuk and Kamsky playing Gelfand. The favourites to win must surely be Kramnik and Gelfand, but my predictions before the first round were way out, so we'll just have to wait and see. Play resumes tomorrow, that's Thursday at midday. As usual, I'll be watching on Chess Bomb, and I hope to see you there. Thanks very much.